Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Coppercast podcast. I'm your host, Dave Sim, Public Engagement Specialist with the Copper Country Intermediate School District. Today's episode is focused on something that impacts our students in a huge way, mental health services in schools. I'll be joined by Natalie Morgan, the CCISD's Mental Health Services Coordinator. She'll be sharing what it looks like to deliver mental health services in schools and why it's so vital for student learning and engagement. Before we talk with Natalie, we want to remind everyone that the CCISD Professional Development event is coming up on February 14th at Houghton High School. Registration is now open, and if you haven't, register an RSVP for your sessions today by visiting ccisd.pd25.eventify.io. Once again, that's ccisd.pd25.eventify.io. The link is with the description and the email for this podcast. Download the Eventify app to have access to your schedule, connect with others, and get session credits for your sketches. We look forward to having you join us. Now let's talk about mental health. Before we hear from Natalie, it's important to recognize some things. According to the National Alliance on Mental Illness, nearly 1 in 6 U.S. youth age 6 through 17 experience a mental health disorder each year. The CDC's Mental Health Action Guide notes that schools are a critical venue for providing mental health services to children, estimating that 80% of children who receive mental health support rely on school-based programs. It's a big deal. And as we hear from Natalie, integrating mental health services into our schools helps students stay engaged, learn better, and develop skills that support them in all areas of life. Let's start with Natalie's introduction and hear about her role.
Hi, my name is Natalie Morgan, and I'm the Mental Health Services Coordinator here at the ISD. I also provide school social work and mental health services in the schools as well.
Natalie has a strong background working with children and adolescents in different states. Let's hear more about how she got into this field.
So I have worked in 2 different states now as a school social worker. And so I have been working with schools directly for about 8 years. And then I've always worked with adolescents and juveniles throughout my career. So I have worked indirectly with schools as well for about 15 years now. Started back when I was in my bachelor's program. I was actually a psychology major, and then I took a social work class, and it just really resonated with me. So that's what I finished my degree, my bachelor's in social work, and then went on for my master's in social work. And I got that in Kansas at Washburn University. And they had a school social work track. And so I just decided that it may be cool to work within a school district at some point in my career. I knew that I always wanted to work with adolescents, and what better place than, where they spend a majority of their time. And so I did the school social work track through my master's program. And then I was in the field for a few years before I actually worked directly with a school. But
Natalie's passion for school-based mental health shines through. Research shows that when mental health support is in place, students improve both academically and socially. An article from the U.S. News and World Report in 2024 showed that mental health programs in schools helps reduce absenteeism and improve students' emotional regulation. In schools, mental health support takes many forms. Natalie explains what these services look like in practice.
So all of the districts have a slightly different process to identifying and then referring students for mental health. Most of them go through a behavioral health assessment team, or they're also advanced tier teams. If they have identified students who may be struggling a little bit, there may be a change in their behavior. They know about something that happened outside of school and they just want somebody to check in with them. There's a referral process, and then we meet with the students initially to do an assessment with them and figure out, if they are struggling, what areas they're struggling in, and then serve them and work with them in those areas that they are struggling in. We just really wanted to be able to focus on those students who maybe struggling a little bit more. We know through research that mental health has become a bigger issue for students and for youth over the last 10, 15, 20 years. And so being able to serve them within the school setting is really important because, again, we can help them learn the skills that they need to be a successful student and be successful members of society. And, mental health just really plays a role. It's just as important as physical health.
As Natalie mentioned, these services help address issues as they arise and give students lifelong skills to manage stress and challenges. Early intervention can improve outcomes for students, helping them build resilience for the future. Natalie breaks down how mental health services can be offered at different intensities depending on the needs of a student. She explains how tiers of support works.
All of the districts can choose how they want to address this, but a lot of the districts will use kind of a tiered level of support. So there are some teachers who reach out and they're noticing some common issues within their classroom. Say it could be around friendship, or it could be around bullying. It could be around using their manners, and so we can come in and do a classroom-wide intervention. Sometimes that's effective to help with the issue that the teacher is seeing. Sometimes we'll do smaller groups. So we'll pull out 5 to 6, sometimes 7, 8 students and do a smaller group with them and help them with some of those more intensive services. So if they're, if they're struggling with anxiety or depression or that friendship piece, sometimes it's working on executive functioning skills, so like organization and turning their homework in on time. And then some students need more individual services, more one-on-one. And so that's where at those meetings that the mental health providers attend, some of them are weekly, some of them are every other week. That's where it comes in handy, and we can talk about those students who may need more of that one-on-one support.
One of the most common challenges students face is anxiety. Natalie describes what it looks like and how it impacts students' focus and well-being.
Yeah, so some of the biggest ones are just how much the child worries. That's another word to use for anxiety, is just that level of worry. Some kids, it's really hard for them to take a test. They'll get really nervous around test time, and so that piece of it may not get to the level of an actual diagnosis of anxiety. But a lot of it is just them not being able to focus because they're worried about things, especially things that are out of their control. So sometimes if they have stuff going on at home, and they bring it into school, and a lot of times a teacher will see a change in their behavior. So there maybe, they maybe were okay at the beginning of the school year, and then something happened, outside school, or like I said, with that trauma piece. A lot of anxiety can stem from just a trauma that they've experienced. So worrying that, someone else in their family may pass away, or, another animal may have to be put down. So just a lot of times, most times it's a culmination of things that can cause that anxiety. And sometimes it's really just helping students build up some of those skills, right? Because throughout life, we're going to have things that happen outside of our control, and we're going to need the skill set to be able to manage those feelings. And so that's, again, why in the work that I do, I have students identify those feelings, and anxiety is a feeling, and it's okay to feel anxiety every once in a while. It's okay to feel worried. It's our bodies, our brain's way of kind of protecting us. But then it's how to manage those feelings and how to, show up to school and take that test that you're worried about, even though you do have some of those other feelings that may interfere. So how do you kind of deal with those, work through those to still be successful?
It's crucial for parents, guardians, and educators to work together in supporting students' well-being. Research emphasizes that positive mental health in schools not only leads to better learning outcomes, but fosters a sense of belonging and reduces the risk of more serious mental health issues down the line. So what can families do to support their students' mental health? Natalie offers a few ideas.
I think a big part is just checking in with them, just that communication piece. And, there's a lot of resources online for, conversation starters and, not just saying like, how was your day? Because the answer is going to be good, typically. And so, just like checking in and asking about mental health. Also, it's important for parents to educate themselves about mental health as well. And if there are concerns, letting someone at the school know, whether it's their teacher or administrator. There's a lot more mental health fluency within the schools as well. And so I feel like over the last 5-6 years, just the level of mental health knowledge within the schools has increased a lot. And so parents just reaching out to, whether it's a counselor or the principal, your student's teacher, and just letting them know if you're seeing some warning signs about, some concerning mental health stuff. And we can then figure out what services are best for your student and put those into place.
Finally, let's talk about where all this is heading. Many organizations, like the CDC, affirm the need for continued support and funding for school-based mental health. Natalie sees that trend continuing.
I don't feel that there's going to be a reduction in mental health services in schools. I feel that it will either stay about the same that it is now, or we will be engaging even more students, whether it's that tier 1 that covers the whole student body, and getting students to talk more about mental health and check in on their friends a little bit more, or just know, what to do in case one of their friends or peers is having a mental health issue or concern. And so I think that just the level of education around mental health is going to increase, and the services, like I said, they'll stay in place for sure. I don't think that the funding is going to go anywhere. There's still going to be funding for mental health over the next few years in schools. And so just really, hopefully being able to reach more of the student body and just letting them know what to do in case they are experiencing some mental health concerns.
Investing in mental health programs in our schools is essential. That U.S. News and World Report that I referenced earlier also highlights how students involved in mental health programs are more likely to stay in school and see long-term academic and personal success. If Natalie had a magic wand to improve mental health offerings, she'd like to see even more clinicians available.
I would say more clinicians, just definitely in this area too. I feel like we're pretty lucky up here in the Copper Country because the amount and the level of professionalism and expertise that we have on our team is actually pretty excellent, especially compared to some of the other ISDs that I have contact with. But just, I think it would be nice to have, a clinician in every district, and that's who they serve. But we're not quite there yet. Another thing would just be more acceptance of the need for mental health. I think that, again, it's come a long way over the last 5-6 years, and that the administrators and school personnel are definitely thankful for, the mental health services that are provided. And so just continuing that too, and continuing to build those relationships between the ISD and the districts.
Natalie and her team have seen success stories firsthand, and it's that progress, however small or large, that makes their work fulfilling.
I just think overall, I feel that we have some really great success stories with students, and it's really been awesome to watch our team grow and those relationships that we are creating and have created with the districts and the parents and the students, I think is really great. And just letting people know, we're here to help support your student. We're here to help support you as a family, as a parent, and so if there's ever any doubt about anything, especially mental health wise, just feel free to reach out to any of us and we'll take care of you as best we can.
Thank you to Natalie Morgan, CCISD Mental Health Services Coordinator. Whether you're a parent, caregiver, educator, or student, you are not alone in facing mental health challenges. There are resources, expert, and professionals ready to help. Reaching out is the first step towards support and success. Thank you for joining us this week on the Coppercast. I'm your host, Dave Sim, and I hope that you'll join us next time. Thank you for supporting education and a lifetime of learning.